Hey guys, in this video I'm going to introduce and explain my course on ear training. The ear is the most valuable tool that we have to participate in the world of music. Even though I strongly believe in learning to read sheet music, when you're reading sheet music, you still need your ear, not only to help you determine whether you're playing the right notes, but also to make artistic and musical decisions about the way you're performing the piece. So developing a more discerning ear is a huge part of becoming a better musician. And in addition to that, it makes so many aspects of musicianship so much easier. Playing Irish tunes, for example, at a session becomes so much more fulfilling and enjoyable because you're able to learn the tunes a lot more quickly. And even just something casual like sitting around a campfire with some guitars, if you can hear a chord progression and be able to identify it and play it on your instrument, then you can instantly participate in whatever musical situation you find yourself in. Speaking of which, the goals of this course: number one, to be able to hear a traditional tune, like an Irish melody for instance, played at a moderate pace, and by maybe the third or fourth time, to be able to play along with a reasonable degree of accuracy. And goal number two is to be able to hear a simple chord progression, and again, by maybe the third or fourth time, be able to play along accurately and understand what you're actually playing. So what are the tools we're going to use? Well, you guessed it, the first one is, of course, your ears. But the second one is actually the most important tool, and that's going to be your voice. Your voice is your portable playback machine. It's the only instrument that I can think of that you can accurately reproduce a note without having any idea what the note is. So if you hear a note and you've got your flute out and you don't know what that note is, you can't play that note back on your flute or your piano or your banjo or your bagpipe. But if you have a well-trained voice, then when you hear a note, you can sing it back. And so when you hear a sequence of notes, you can sing that back too. And then you can sing it back to yourself slower, and you can dissect what the different intervals were in that melody. So it's like a little playback machine where you've got rewind and pause and slow down and fast forward and all these little features, all contained within your own voice, and it's portable. So this course is going to focus mainly on two basic strategies. One of them is starting from a concept like a fourth, and being able to audiate that interval, and then being able to sing ha ha that particular interval. So that's going from concept to sound. And then the other one, of course, is the reverse. Hearing a sound and being able to play it back in your head, figure out, okay, what concept is that sound? And then being able to identify it. And then the addendum to that is, can you then reproduce that on your instrument? And that's more a matter of technique than ear training, but we'll touch on that as well. Of course, we're going to talk about hearing steps versus skips, and then hearing thirds and fourths. Then we're going to take a break, and using those smaller intervals, we're going to work on hearing some short diatonic melodies, some basic melodies that don't have a lot of big skips in them. Then we're going to go into hearing larger intervals, fifth, sixth, up to octave and beyond, and incorporate some pieces that use those larger intervals. We're going to touch on how to hear accidentals within a diatonic context. One of my favorite examples for that is the Star-Spangled Banner. We're also going to look at Stars and Stripes Forever. I don't know why patriotic songs always have these excellent examples of accidentals, but they do. We're going to practice hearing a variety of scales and modes, so not only the classic major and minor scales, but also the Dorian, Mixolydian, and all of that stuff. Then we're going to practice hearing basic chord quality, major versus minor, block chords, broken chords, and we're going to try to be able to hear the inversion as well. Then we're going to identify more difficult chords, diminished, augmented, all the different kinds of seventh chords. Of course, that's a huge topic right there. We're going to look at Neapolitan, augmented sixth, secondary dominants. We're going to do how to hear different kinds of extensions, ninths, elevenths, etc., and borrowed chords from parallel minor, all that juicy stuff that you've been hearing about for years. Maybe you've even been playing it, but you're not always 100% sure of how to identify it by ear. We're going to work on hearing and recognizing common chord sequences. I have a lot of really cool pieces planned in that category. We're going to look at Brandenburg Concerto No. 3, and we're going to look at a couple of Gershwin and Cole Porter jazz compositions to work on hearing the 2/5 jazz progression. We're going to work on hearing suspensions and non-chord tones. A lot of that's going to be Renaissance and Baroque. So we're going to look at Byrd, we're going to look at Purcell, we're going to look at Arcangelo Corelli. Of course, we're going to look at Bach. Lots of juicy stuff there. A big topic we're going to cover is how to hear and identify modulations. My friends know me as the person that always says, whenever a song comes on the radio, I always ask them, hey guys, by what interval does this song modulate after the second verse or what have you? So there's a lot of cool pieces in this category. We're going to look at Livin' on a Prayer, Beethoven's Pathetique Sonata. We're going to look at a whole bunch of great Christmas songs that all feature these really interesting modulations. Sleigh Bells, The Christmas Song. Related to modulations is hearing modal shifts. For that, we're going to look at some romantic and modern music, Holst, Vaughan Williams, as well as some jazz music like Miles Davis' Kind of Blue. And then our last couple of categories, which are not for the faint of heart, we're going to do hearing complex layered chords and challenging modern progressions. So that is going to feature a couple of modern artists that you might recognize, Steely Dan, Stevie Wonder, as well as a little bit of Stravinsky, actually, believe it or not. Speaking of Stravinsky, we're also going to have a little segment on weird rhythms. Everyone's probably familiar with that really strange section from Rite of Spring with the incredibly sporadic rhythms that are so hard to follow. We're also going to take a look at some really cool progressive rock and jazz fusion music in our little discussion about weird rhythms. Wow, that was a lot of stuff. I hope you're not too overwhelmed. I can guarantee you that it's going to be a lot of fun, though. Take what you want from each video. Maybe there's a little something that might be too advanced, or maybe there's something that might be too easy for you. But just follow along and kind of, enjoy the ride and see what you might get from each piece that we analyze. And I'm going to leave you with one more thought. I think one of the best ways to improve your ear training is whatever you are working on being able to hear, make sure that you spend some time playing it on your instrument or singing it and really listening to the sounds and becoming intimately familiar with those sounds and how it feels to play that particular melody or chord progression. Because honestly, one of the ways that I identify certain sounds is just by the way they feel. But you're not going to be able to identify them that way unless you've built up that emotional association with that particular sound. So spend time playing the sounds that you want to be able to identify. Alright guys, that's all for this video. I hope you are as excited as I am, and I hope to see some of you guys in ear training.